The RRCA is a 27th largest roofing and restoration.
Too good. You can't share it.
Lake Charles as a preferred
Cut them off. Cut them off.
Hey, there's two types of people out there, strong and smart. Look, not the strongest, but every once in a while I come up with a bright idea. And that's exactly what I just did, man. We did what we called the public service announcement. We did a little adaptation. We called it the Large Loss Mitigation Team voicemail drop. And it's one of the things I wanted to do, sending my message out to hundreds of commercial property owners and connecting with somebody that really aligned with my message. He's an old school Marine and he's a blue collar entrepreneur and he respects people getting shit done. Bentley called us out. He had a big project, at least a $500,000 damage on his own property. And I show up there and there's some other roofers out there working. And I'm talking to him, just trying to extract some addresses. He's giving me referrals to some of his friends. And I'm trying to set up another appointment because that's what sales is all about. Well, sometimes things are just outside of your control. And even though Bentley was incredibly nice, the next day when I tried to follow up with him, he ghosted me. And it was funny because I thought he was like literally the $1 million deal that we for sure were going to pivot off of, plant a flag off of, because knowing $1 million customer can get you so many referrals. But you know, losing out on an opportunity like that is not something that you can afford to fret on when you're in a disaster. And so while we were on top of his property, we made a YouTube ad video. And I talked to him about misconceptions about handling storm damage. And I educated him about how the insurance company's not like a good neighbor. It must have really worked because we were generating leads for $7 a lead. And here we are with the deal of a lifetime. A roof completely dripped off, and I thought for certain this guy was going to close the next morning. Unfortunately, being close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, and you know, you can't really get too upset about the deals you don't close. But we had to be in different places, me and Cagney gave it all he's got. I had my dad meet Cagney over there. This guy was being tough. He was being hard on us about, is my building worth the cost of reconstruction? He wanted maybe a little bit more remediation expertise because he ended up going with a different contractor, which was heartbreaking. I mean, we thought we had this job. Here we are now, 3 major deals right through our fingertips. Not only that, we hadn't had a hot meal. I'm doing the 75 hard workout challenge where I'm working out twice a day. I'm almost 100 workouts into this thing. And at this point, without hot meals, I was discouraged. I was crushed. I thought I was a failure and I wanted to quit. And we had to move on to the next project. But the next project was a life-changing lesson that took me through a different kind of emotion, and it's a job that I'll never forget for my entire career. You know, going to this bid, there's multiple contractors going to this bid. I'm like, oh my gosh, here's 3 contractors walking a bid site with one of the largest churches in towns. And I know it's a huge project, and as a tier 1 general contractor, if there's 3 different good tier 1 general contractors out there, you know, I'm not the most local guy. I've been defeated by 3-time deals, but I will tell you, I show up to this property and the first thing out of the guy in charge's mouth is, we saw you on the internet and you're a funny guy. And I thought, did this guy just watch my videos on the internet before I got there? And then we started to see the tour of damage and it was devastating.
Sky here, so this is just the east wall all the way across. You see a lot of light coming in over here, but it's actually out of the way.
So after walking all the damages with Mike, we learned he was once in charge of a $12 billion decision on one of these oil refineries and that he was going to be really, really particular. So we gave him a written proposal. We gave him the drone photos. We were very fair with our assessment. And we told him exactly what we could do. And that's why we got a call the next day as the selected contractor to come back and start mitigation. And since my guys got to work quickly, we started showing them what we did. That's where the real demonstration of value started and trust began with Glad Tidings Church. Guys, I'm on site at one of the largest churches that sustained the most damage with board member Mike Kane. Mike, thank you so much for the opportunity to work with your church. I'm here with General Manager David Kelly, and this Glad Tidings Church was a special project. When the storm hit, walk us through with your initial evaluation of damage.
Yeah, so we got here only days after the storm hit, Lee. And fortunately, on Sunday afternoon after the storm hit, you guys showed up in our parking lot and said, hey, look, you want us to fly a drone over the top of this thing and just see what it looks like. We had no idea. We just knew inside we had a mess. We had a disaster inside. In this building behind us. We have 7 buildings on this campus, and we had damage to almost all of them, but we had very severe damage to this one. You flew a drone over the top, and we realized that on the east end of this, we had 8 to 10 feet that just kind of peeled back. We had water coming in. And so, now what do you do? So we're thinking, what do we do now? And you guys said, look, we can throw a temporary covering over that. And we said, yeah, okay, let's talk about that a little bit. But what happened was, at that point, we decided that we had to do this in phases. Okay, so we had to say, look, phase 1 has got to be stabilization. We just got to get it dried in. Okay, phase 2 has got to be remediation. We got to get all the wet stuff out. Everything that got wet, it's got to get mildew on it. You got to get it out of there. And then at that point, after phases 1 and 2 end, we have an opportunity to reconstruct. But we're not going to get in a big hurry. We have to be in a big hurry to get stabilized. We have to get kind of in a big hurry to get the mold out. But then after that, we're going to take a little bit of a break. So right now, we've finished phases 1 and 2, and we're starting into phase 3. Well, now I can have a relationship with you, and I know I can communicate. So that's really, really important. And we found that early on. And then you've got to say, look, we got to have some standards for this. So we got to have some metrics. We got to be able to measure things. It can't just be a wide open schedule.
Got to run a tight schedule.
Got to run a tight schedule because, when you're doing a time and materials kind of a contract like we did at the beginning, it's got to be schedule driven. So otherwise you just spend a lot of money.
You had an agenda every day on a whiteboard. You had meetings every single day.
Got to have a meeting every day. You got to decide what the activities are. You got to be able to drive that with every contractor that you have on the site. And so that's what we did, and it worked really, really well. We actually beat the schedule on this whole phase 1 and 2 by about 10 days.
Wow.
On a really I don't know, let's say 19 day schedule. We beat it by, I guess, about 9 days.
Wow.
So that's pretty good.
If I was a commercial property owner, I would say, I don't want to overpay for my construction. I want to make sure I get good quality, and then I can, count on my contractor to do a good job and stand behind it.
Right.
Now, the biggest thing that I really saw was the faith that they put in you as the leader, and the pastor got to pastor. He got to help the people affected. He didn't have to worry about, all the different things. And
fantastic point.
And let me tell you, one of the best messages in church I've ever heard. I literally was in tears. I'd never gone to church the day after. This is your first church service. I got to be a part of it. My team got to be a part of it. It was a very uplifting and moving experience for all of us, and I'm incredibly grateful.
And then in that conversation, you start to pick up whether you can trust the guy. Okay, so I've had contractors on this job I've had to fire because I couldn't trust them. I couldn't work with them. But you guys, on the other hand, I got to know, at a personal level.
Yes, sir.
And the credibility that you brought was just very, very high. And so, you've done nothing so far to destroy your credibility. Everything you've done has been exactly what you said you would do. And every member of your team, from the top to the bottom, has been the most professional and the most courteous and most polite. I have no problem. I've given lots of recommendations to people that call me. I don't even know who they are sometimes, and personal friends that I have no problem in recommending RCA.
We're incredibly grateful for that. As we were completing the project, there was hundreds of people lining up for free supplies. There was volunteers working. We fed hundreds of workers, and I got in the spirit in a way I never have before. And it was the spirit of the community giving back. Even though this property was completely destroyed, there was literally an operation, a convoy of hope going on. And there was lives being restored and humanity being displayed right here in the parking lot. Just as we thought things were looking under control in Lake Charles, we have Hurricane Delta. Now, this storm is approaching Lake Charles as a Category 3, and I want to tell you, first and foremost, my thoughts and prayers are with the community at Glad Tidings Church. We have a team waiting to respond, and we are there for you in your community. Now, this storm is going to be detrimental to this community because there's a lot of temporary roofs, there's a ton of debris on the ground, and there's a lot of people that are absolutely at their wits' end dealing with hurricane loss. You know, the moral of the story is we are the calm after the storm, that on the other side of disaster there is opportunity. Sometimes it's hard to make sense of Mother Nature's plan, but we cannot ask questions. We have been called to serve, and we are getting on a jet plane, heading into the battle lines to provide first response to the people in need at Lake Charles. And we will be updating you on this journey as we go back to the land that was impacted by Hurricane Laura, that now will be hit again, hitting this evening and hitting tomorrow. This is going to be 12 hours of potentially 120 mile an hour winds on a place that's already been impacted by a Cat 4 storm. We're going to give you an updated report on the next episode. I want to say thank you for joining us, and stay tuned for the next episode. Y'all like, subscribe, comment below. We're going to keep these episodes coming, and have your thoughts and prayers for everyone from Lake Charles, Louisiana.